Welcome to the Samson Strength Coach Collective. On today's episode, we have Whitney Rodden, who's the Director of Sports Performance and Head Weightlifting Coach at MidAmerica Nazarene University. And I really enjoyed my conversation with Whitney. It was really cool to kind of hear about her background. I mean, she's got a super extensive background, not only being the Director of Sports Performance, but also a head weightlifting coach. So for Olympic lifting at MidAmerica Nazarene, which is a team that they have. And then also a USAW competitor, USAW referee, USAW coach, obviously, and then also teaches the USAW courses, and then also has a background within athletic training. Received her ATC. So it's a very, very, very background. It was really cool for me to kind of hear about all these separate things. It's always fun for me to talk to people who are kind of like those forever learners and always trying to expand their field. And then Whitney opened up to us about something during the episode that I thought was, really showed the power of community and having a school that truly lives by its statement that, we are a family. And so overall, I thought this conversation was very touching to me, kind of changed my day, changed my week, and, showed me what I think is truly valued within strength and conditioning and then within life as a whole. So I hope everybody listening feels the same. And as always, thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy. What's going on, Samson Strength Coach Collective listeners? On today's episode, we have Whitney Rodden. Whitney is the Director of Sports Performance and Head Weightlifting Coach at MidAmerica Nazarene University. It's not Mid-American, so everybody make sure we have that appropriate title for the school. Whitney, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. I appreciate you asking me.
Absolutely. And I've already really enjoyed kind of talking to you in our pre-show. I think you have a really incredible background. I'm excited to kind of just dive right in. So can you kind of give me your background in strength and conditioning, and then what's led you to your current position?
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up a farm kid, and I feel like some strength coaches might have started at that that level. I may have hated it growing up, but I appreciate it now. And my dad was always the one asking me to go out and lift the heavy end of the auger, and so I had to get stronger there. So and in high school, I always really enjoyed the weight room, and thought I wanted to do athletic training going from high school to college, and actually came to Mid-America to play softball and got into weightlifting because of my mentor, which I know you're going to ask me that later on, like who was my influence. And so my strength coach got me into competing in Olympic lifting, which in turn, helped me with softball immensely. And so I just thought, hey, if this can make a difference in the way I play, which I didn't feel like I was the most coordinated, athlete, it made a huge difference. And so I wanted to be able to share that passion with others. And now I've been doing it for, I don't know, 20 some years, ever since. And so that's really kind of what, got me into it, and was able to get a grad assistantship at K-State. That was quite the experience. And going from a small NAI school to big Division I was a bit of a culture shock, and it was a struggle, especially that was in 2001. So in 2001, there weren't too many female strength coaches, in that field. So it was, I don't know, for me, I felt like it was a challenge. But over the years, and then I went to KU and was a full-time strength coach there for 3 years, and then came back to my alma mater. And now I've been here for, I guess, 19 years. So that's kind of, very quick background of kind of my history. So
It's always tough to kind of ask somebody to break 20 years down into like 2 or 3 minutes. There's a lot that goes on
yeah.
in that time frame. So it's tough, again, to just kind of condense it all down. You were correct. I was going to ask you about kind of people who initially influenced you. Who was the strength coach you originally worked with? And then what were kind of those things that helped you develop that relationship and help kind of grow your interest into becoming a strength coach?
Yeah. So Coach Tom Cross was my strength and conditioning coach here at MNU. And he, over the years had been very influential in the NSCA and would, be the state director and things like that. And ended up becoming a legend in the field in the CSCCA. And so that was a really cool thing to be a part of when he did get that status and got to be there for that. And he just, he didn't let you get away with anything, couldn't be late, just reinforced all those habits that, we still try to enforce today. And sometimes is a challenge, I feel like, as sometimes kids have a hard time with the accountability piece. And so, Coach Cross didn't mess around. He didn't, you did not, fall astray from the things that he expected. He had a lot of huge expectations, and you wanted to fulfill, what he had for you because he poured his life into me. He ended up. I feel like he was a grandparent to me and his wife and their whole family. And his grandson's actually a strength coach as well at Oklahoma State University. So it's kind of cool that that's still he's influenced so many people and in the field and just in for my own performance as well. So
I,
it's been cool.
I think it's so interesting to hear about strength coaches and how they can influence others, especially later on down the line in the field. Like, it kind of to me almost seems like it can be a make or break with who your first experience is with, and it always
Hmm.
makes me, I kind of sometimes, if I have a lot of free time, like I have had recently with the season being over, just thinking about, imagine how many people would be amazing strength coaches, but they had a bad experience with the strength coach initially and then were never able to actually kind of foster that love and then, became an accountant or something like that. It's a completely different profession. It's always interesting. So, I mean, I'm sure you
That's true.
appreciated your relationship with Coach Cross to be able to kind of inspire you to continue on strength and conditioning.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And he lived into his 90s. And, every athlete around here would always be like, man, he was in his 60s when he came here. So he was an older strength coach, um, and he was still out running and doing kettlebell swings. I've even got a picture of him doing an overhead squat on a balance board, and he was probably in his 80s.
Wow.
So not only, coaching wise, but just making sure you're still maintaining as much as you can with, your health and your ability to be able to function and,
No, it's
do
it's
well.
it's crucial, and I love the practicing what you preach, style of coaching as well. And you talk
Hmm.
about the accountability piece, like that's the number one thing. Where if my athletes, if I'm ever late for something, they'll immediately kind of call me out on it, because I'll never let them be late. I remember wanting to be the cool coach when I first started too, and be like, oh, who cares. And then like my
Yeah.
first year, I was just like, nah, I can't operate like this. Everybody has to be on
Yeah.
time, and we have to be more on the accountability side. Um, well, one thing I'm curious about too that you mentioned in your intro was being kind of, well, not kind of, but a female strength coach within the original stages for females to kind of enter the field.
Hmm.
You said there was a little bit of challenges that you kind of faced, or was a little bit of a different path than male strength coaches might have faced. What was your experience kind of coming up as a female strength coach?
Yeah, I think maybe just me personally, I didn't always have the most confidence when I was coaching, at least back then. I think if I could tell myself, my younger self, just be bold and get out there and do it anyways. You know what you're doing, and it's taken me years to get to that point where I feel way more confident in my abilities and skills. And but I think at that time, I should have just trusted my gut. And when I was at K State, I was under Coach Rod Cole, and he was a big impact on building my confidence as well. And he's down at Tarleton State now, and we still remain, in pretty close contact. And he really helped me kind of bridge that gap as well, and um, you know, breathe some belief into me so that I could feel confident going it out and doing that well. And then even at KU, I had some really good, um, you know, not athletes. I almost said teammates, but it feels like teammates,
Yeah,
right? When
yeah.
you're coaching alongside, other coaches, whether you're working with the same group or not. I feel like just being able to bounce ideas off of each other was huge. I had Jonas Serration, he's at UNC now, and then Derek Honnold, he was, at KU for a long time and then ended up being at Clemson, I believe, for a while. So, I've had some really positive people in my corner to help me. So it hasn't been, just Coach Cross, and even the ones that, um, you know, out and like I've got different athletes in my coaching tree. So they were athletes and then they ended up wanting to get into this. And so I still learn from them. And even my current grad assistant and assistant coaches, they just, you know, it's fun to be able to build that system. I know I'm kind of off track of as far as being female, but I feel like it takes a team effort sometimes, and just working with other really good coaches, I think can help develop that, whether it's, somebody could be male and they just don't have a whole lot of confidence or trust in what they're doing. I think that's just kind of what, I don't know, what's really helped me is being around those positive influences.
Well, I mean,
So,
it makes a massive difference. We even spoke about it, right before the show. We talked about how you mentioned Katie Munger over at Texas
yeah.
Tech, and Katie was somebody who had to breathe a lot of confidence into me. My teams were out of shape and struggled with it, and Katie's a conditioning guru of some sorts, and she kind of had to teach me and spend a whole summer with me about conditioning and learning about how to actually program and then also just kind of how to approach those conversations with the coaches as well too, because as
Mm,
we all know, conditioning is not just the strength job. The strength and conditioning coach's job. It's in conjunction with practice a lot of time. And so that was somebody who kind of helped me out a lot and helped me gain that confidence. So I think that's something that can resonate with a lot of coaches. I mean, still to this day, there's things I'm not super confident about. And so it's nice to have other coaches to kind of reach out to and have them kind of, you know, proverbially kind of smack me across the face and just say, hey man, like you're good. Like, don't worry about this. You're going to absolutely crush it. It makes a difference.
it does for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. And yeah, you had a good one with Katie for
Yeah, yeah.
sure.
Well, what I didn't know at the time is how smart Katie was. Really, I thought it was an older strength coach helped me out, and then I speak with other people, and I'm like, oh my goodness, she's top of the top. Absolutely knows what she's doing. So, you spoke about your involvement with USAW. I mean, as a competitor, then as a coach, and then I believe a referee as well. Can you kind of speak to me about your experience within USAW, how you've kind of gone about your journey through that, and then, I guess too, what the coaching aspect looks like for you, especially with having the background of the referee credentials as well.
Yeah. So with USA weightlifting, we were talking about even our USA member number. I was looking at some of our member numbers and plugging people in. I was talking to my daughter about it, and I'm like, mine's 6 numbers. So I've been in it for like so many years. Yeah, now it's like 7 numbers or something. But so yeah, and I even know some people that have 3 numbers
Wow.
that are, yeah. So and they're awesome people that have helped us with our meets and stuff. But yeah, so being involved with USAW for over 20 years, both, yeah, as a competitor and then, yes, I have my referee cert. Most of the time, though, I'm helping to run the meet, so I don't typically have time or coaching it, so I don't have time to referee. But yeah, I can ref a national. I've not reached my national level referee certification yet. There's quite the process to get to that point, and at this time in my life, I don't know if I can sit down and be able to, get to that point, but I would like to one day and be able to give back. And, I help with, sometimes I've helped at national meets to do, I'd announced one time. That's scary. But I'm like, am I saying your name right? Like, I apologize now if I'm butchering your name, um, but yeah, and I teach the USA weightlifting level 1, and I can teach level 2. I haven't taught too many level 2s lately, but I'm actually going to Oklahoma, Southern Nazarene to teach a level 1 course here in a few weeks. So
That's
I
awesome.
always go down there every spring to teach that. So yeah, and then now we've gotten to the point where we've, uh, you know, here at MNU we always had a weightlifting club, but now we've grown it into where we have it as a sport, and so we're able to give scholarships here at MNU with Olympic lifting. So seeing that evolve, that was, I've never envied the coaches on the recruiting side of things. I always wondered what it was like. And when you have athletes come in that they bring in and you talk to the recruits and you understand how that part goes, but getting those recruits to come in and like that whole process is a whole different ballgame. As far
Absolutely.
as amount of time and finding the right people and bringing them in. They have the good personality. Are they a good athlete? Those kinds of things. It's kind of a challenge, but so I think that's kind of unique to us that we uh, have USA Weightlifting there to help us get the word out and various things. So yeah,
I think that's
and then
extremely unique. I mean, that's
yeah,
incredible. I've never heard of that. Really, I mean, I can't think of any programs now besides MNU off the top of my head who have a
yeah,
legitimate weightlifting team.
yeah,
And first of all, too, I will say this: what everybody's been asking me because we've had, on both sides. Every athlete's hitting the transfer portal across the country, and I've had coaches kind of reach out to me and ask how I'm feeling. And I'm like, I feel fine because I don't have to do the recruiting aspect. I don't have to worry about bringing
hmm
people onto campus. This is probably the best couple of months I have right here of being just a strength coach and just lifting whoever's coming in. And then, like you said, somebody comes in for a visit, I just get to talk to them. And my number one joke is I see the dad and I'm like, oh man, no matter what he looks like, I'm man, are you sure you're not the strength coach? And he always is like, oh, whoa. And it's easy for me. So I'm sure it's shocking to kind of be on the other side and see what goes into that process. How
yeah.
did that process begin for you? How did you initially bring that up to administration, and how did that get approved for you guys to be a full-fledged team?
Over the years we've talked about it, but um, it was funny because they dropped this on me right in the middle of COVID. So it was like April of 2020. They're like, here, start a weightlifting team out of your house, basically, recruit from your home,
It's awesome.
which was great. I was grateful that they finally wanted to start it. I didn't know what I was getting into. I also didn't know a lot of the systems that they use across our campus as far as, okay, you have somebody interested. What do you do with that information? And then, like, everybody along the pipeline that's involved, financial aid, admissions, everybody has to know what's going on. And so that was a whole thing. But yeah, I somehow, by the grace of God, got, oh my gosh, we got a few athletes to start us off, and now it's grown to we have what? We have 18 roughly on the team right
Wow.
now, and we're gonna lose like 7 seniors, so we've got some coming back in, and we've grown it to where initially we got enough people on the team that I could have a grad assistant, and then we got enough people on the team. So that was kind of our marker of, okay, how can we keep our GA? Now my assistant, he does the programming. He does an amazing job. He's just taken off with it, and so it's been really cool to see that develop. And then he's super passionate about it. So is my other GA. They're passionate about, and they both compete as well. So it's really cool to see it, got it started and they're just kind of running with it, helping to just keep it going. And it's been a lot of fun to see
I
it finally transpire. And
Yeah, I can only imagine. And I was curious about that too. Like, how does that operate as the head coach and then operating as a strength coach? But obviously, you have the help from your assistant and your GAs.
Mhm.
Do you coach the team differently? From how you would act with another team as a strength coach. Like does it feel different when you're with the weightlifting team, especially with kind of the role of being the head coach?
Yeah, it's different because you can be a little bit more one-on-one in a way, like them better. As strength coaches, you you see them for that, hour, maybe hour and a half, maybe 3 days a week. And some of them, will come in earlier. Some of them will stay and hang around longer, but it's not like the whole team, At least for me. I don't know about how it is for you.
Pretty similar.
Um, yeah, and so you get to know them, and again, I don't really travel with our teams necessarily, and I'm not really out there at practice. You might go out there with, you might have be able to get those relationships grown through those times. But we have what 11 teams, and there's other schools that have way more. But as far as being able to manage it all, it's tough to get to know a lot of our athletes more unless they, stick around a little bit, before after lifting. But like with our weightlifting team, we're traveling together. We're, we have like team Bible studies and stuff like that and other um other ways to get to know each other. And then yeah, along with the coaching piece that you're trying to, it's a very technical sport, so you have to really, be right there on them. And that's where, my assistants come in. And if I've got a whole team, they're taking, a handful of weightlifters and taking them through their training. So we've we've juggled it fairly well, I feel like. Um, but yeah, I'm not yelling at them like I do with football. Like let's go. You don't have to do that necessarily. They're pretty intrinsically motivated. So
Yeah. Well, that's what's
yeah.
funny too is I'll kind of speak with people outside of strength and conditioning who may not be so familiar with the process of it, and they always kind of think like my lifting itself is super intense, or like as a strength coach, I like play Metallica as loud as possible every time I lift, and then them screaming and yelling and slapping people in the back, and it's just like no, it's actually probably like the most calm part of my day. I mean, for me personally, because I'm doing so much yelling at other sports and trying to get those
Yes.
guys hyped up. Like you said, the intrinsic motivation is high. So it's very nice for me to just be in complete silence and then hit a quick set and then kind of just wait it out.
Yeah, I think I heard on one of your other podcasts, like there's times where you're just like, it is complete silence and somebody will randomly come in and they're like, what are you doing? Like, why aren't you blaring music? And you're like, I can finally decompress and
It's
not be overstimulated.
Oh, it's so
So,
nice. I mean,
yeah,
seriously, and
yeah,
it's like the moments is to be able to find the peace in the day, and just to be able to actually relax. And it's fun. I don't lift heavy enough, in my opinion. I think to really require those stereotypical environment pieces. So, I mean, it's nice
yeah,
for me. Yeah. Well,
that's
one
awesome.
other thing that's super interesting about your background is, kind of your experience within athletic training as well. You are a member of the NATA, and I think it's really interesting. And we've mentioned it before the show, just kind of talking about it. I know of a lot of strength coaches who kind of even talk about potentially doing something within the athletic training field or trying to get their hours or become ATC, professionals. How's that experience been for you? And then kind of how does that background in athletic training influence you as a strength coach? Does it change your relationships with athletic trainers? Does it allow you to communicate with them easier? As a whole, how has it influenced you?
Yeah, I mean, I finished my athletic training degree, took my exam, somehow passed it, and you know, I ended up not using it at all outside of, not as a full-time job. And so at least having that degree, I felt like gave me a little different perspective on, what's that side of the house look like on a typical day. I mean, I can still tape an ankle. I can, I can do that. It's probably about as far as I can go, but being able to like recognize any kind of potential injury or, a former injury where the athlete, maybe doesn't want to bring it up. Now, I know a lot of strength coaches, you study this stuff anyway. So it's kind of like over the years, I've noticed that, is going to be kind of on the forefront of what we're doing anyways. But being able to communicate with athletic training staff, I mean, I feel like, kind of understand what their thought process is and things like that. So the other cool thing was I've been able to see our orthopedic surgeon do some surgeries. So I was been able, between my undergrad and then even after I was back here full time, I wanted to watch a couple surgeries just to experience it and see what it was like. And some of it was interesting. And I've seen an ACL. The only thing that really bothered me about the ACL repair was the smell. Sometimes
Oh,
they cauterize the skin, right? And I grew up, like I said, I grew up on a farm, so I'm used to that smell from dehorning cattle. So that burning flesh smell was not. Yeah, but everything else wasn't too bad. Didn't gross me out, but yeah. So
yeah, no, I mean, I've actually been asked before if I'd like to watched surgeries kind of in the undergrad same experience, and I said I could not do it. I think it was
Really?
I can't. I'm a wimp. I really am at the end of the day. And
Oh.
like, and one of them was like supposed to be a hip replacement, and I knew that that was a
Ooh,
really, really
that's intense.
aggressive surgery. So I was like, I think I'm good. Like I just know I can't handle that, and I'm kind of a baby in that regard. So,
That's okay.
well,
That's all
well,
right.
but I mean, I'm sure that having that background actually helps you kind of communicate with their athletic trainers just to a little bit of a higher level and understand where they're coming from. And one of the main things that kind of frustrates me about strength and conditioning is I feel like there's like this narrative from when you start is that strength coaches and athletic trainers kind of have to butt heads.
Hmm.
I've seen it at every school I've been at. I try to make it my mission to not have that happen with the athletic trainers I work with, and I think I have great relationships with all of them. They may tell you something different, but it's made my life way easier. And so I don't know. I think it's so interesting to me for you to have both of those kind of backgrounds between strength and conditioning and athletic training because it's almost like like the dark side that people talk about in strength and conditioning. It's like, man, we can all get along, and also we're all here for the athlete and trying to get the athlete to feel better. Like
Yes.
if the athletic trainer tells me they can't do a lift on that specific day, it doesn't really bother me that much. Like my job is to kind of, in my view, to find ways around it or to kind of work hand in hand with the athletic trainer. So I'm sure it's made that aspect a little bit easier for you as well.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm just trying to. Now it's the ones that say they can't do anything at all, and I'm
Yeah.
like, really? Whatever, their legs still work, and then getting the athlete to, some athletes you've got to really tell them like, you'll be okay. We can do other parts of your body,
Yep.
and it's the ones that are like, just use that and say, well, I can't do anything at all. And until I hear it from like the doctor said, like legit, they cannot do anything, then I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, but we really haven't had too much of that with our athletic training staff. They're usually pretty, um, they try to push them too to work other parts of their body. So
It
yeah.
makes it way better as for the relationship as a whole. I
Hmm.
actually shut somebody down the other day myself. Though I talked to the athletic trainer, I
Okay.
was like, "Hey, I don't think she should lift," and it was because she was struggling. She couldn't do a jumping jack, and it was like, oh, my back hurts so much I can't. And so I was like, "All right, I can't." I was like, "I think you know
Yeah.
what, you should go see our AT for treatments today, and then I'll come see you tomorrow."
Yeah.
And our AT was like,
We'll
"No, I
try it
think
again.
she's good." And I was like, "No, no." I was like, she should go see you."
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah. Well, obviously, you've had a couple stops along your career. You've gone to different locations, but you were an athlete at MidAmerica Nazarene and then returned back. What drew you back to MNU, and then how's your experience been since returning?
Yeah. So it's been really good. And it was always my goal when I left here as an athlete, to go to the Division 1 level. And I had a great time. I was, blessed to have that experience and, know what it's like and be able to, share that with others and try to push others, to get into strength and conditioning and go Division 1 or Division 2 or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with the NAIA level. I just really wanted to come back. One, I just felt like I could kind of run it the way I wanted to and not feel like I had to, um, you know, I guess argue for what I wanted, so much. You still have the other piece of maybe you have to sometimes not really argue, but like have those discussions with the coaches, right? And figuring out, what they feel like is going to be best for their team, and I come alongside, and I've had some pretty good headbutts along the way, but I don't think it's been outside of something that we can't finally collaborate and figure out a plan, for the athletes. And as long as they're communicating with me about what they're doing out on the field and what they see they need, and then I can come up with a good game plan on what, at least what I feel like is a good game plan. Which all of our coaches are really pretty good about supporting us, I feel like. Um, and so it kind of feels like home. And even when I came here for my visit, as a high schooler, I always felt like it was like home. And I just was able to come back to home, and they all joke with me because I'm a lifer, at MNU, and I'm sorry, I might be a lifer, and you might have to wheel me out of here one day, but you know, it's been a great place. Another component too is, I have children, and so raising them in this environment. And I feel like all of our coaches here have had a really positive experience. Our athletes do a really good job of, making them feel like they're a part of the whole MNU family. And so having them grow up in this area and this environment, I think has been really cool for my kids. And my son's getting ready to graduate high school, which is crazy, and I've got plenty of pictures of all of them in the weight room holding something, a stick, a bar, and then my daughter's a freshman in high school, and she actually comes here pretty much every day now, and uh, she's really gotten into Olympic lifting. I really think she's gotten into Olympic lifting more since we've had our team. So our college team, she's really, bought in a lot, and she actually was a national champion last year, so I'm pretty proud of her on that. In
Absolutely.
the 15-year-old age division, and yeah, so that part's been really cool.
Yeah, no, I mean
So,
that's incredible, and I think that's what I've kind of, as I've gone through strength and conditioning, is tried to find a place that does have that family atmosphere more, for sure. Like I think it was cool when I first started out. Like I heard the guy I was a GA for at Tennessee was making high six figures, and it was like, okay, like I'm going to be the next Iowa strength coach, and I'm going to make
mhm.
$1 million, and life is going to be amazing. And then as I kind of progressed through, I was like, all right, well, I love spending time with my fiance. I love my
Mhm.
family. I love doing more things that are oriented around me as a person, not me as a strength coach. And so that's what's been
Yeah.
really cool for me about app, is finding a place where there's a balance between the two. Where it's highly competitive, and I'm sure it's the same with your school, especially being a head coach. You get to that competitive aspect, but then you have the ability to and still enjoy your life, and actually still, I saw my parents for Easter. There's things that
Yeah.
at other programs, and I feel like the higher you kind of progress within Division 1, the more difficult those things become to do.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And the other thing I was going to also mention was that I have a third daughter who, at the time, she was 14 months old when she passed. And so it was during the summertime, and, um, we're getting ready to have school start. We were actually getting ready to have a weightlifting meet. So it was like a month out from hosting Kansas State Championships. And so when we lost her, she was unfortunately hit by a truck outside of her daycare. Um, when we lost her, MNU just, wrapped their arms around us and took really good care of us. And said, just come back when you're ready. And you never know when you're ready. Like
Yeah.
you finally, can finally put one foot in front of the other. And they did some fundraisers and stuff. And so a couple of the cool things that they did was we took some of our fundraised money, and they're like, okay, you can do what you want with it. You want to do a scholarship or something? I'm like, oh, scholarships are cool, and yes, they're helpful, but like we really could use some new squat racks. So we ended up getting 4 new squat racks, and then one of them has her name at the top with her
Wow.
little angel wings on the side. So we've got the Harper rack, and so um, that's kind of a coveted rack. Like big dogs get to lift there
Yeah.
and squat some big weight or whatever. And like, hey, you got angel wings on you whenever you're going heavy. You got, be ready. And so, that's kind of a neat thing. And then from when losing her, we also started a Harper's Hugs thing, and we ended up asking people to donate stuffed animals to fire state, local first responders, things like that, children's hospitals. And so in the last couple of years, they've started doing a teddy bear toss at the halftime of a basketball game. And so it's been really cool seeing that. Even almost 8 years later, we're still doing stuff to, spread awareness and let, be able to talk about her. And no, even when it's at your worst, losing a child, I feel like is one of the worst things you could probably go through. I mean, I've lost a parent, and I've gone through some hard things, but that one ooh, is hard to. I mean, I still have some days where it's rough, but you know, knowing that I know where she's at, and that's the other thing. Sharing that with our athletes, that you can go through some dark days, but know that there's another side, and that you will get to that other side. So yeah, so that's one thing that we've done here, and all of our athletes do a good job of helping out. We also do a little on her birthday. She's a Cinco de Mayo baby. We'll do the Harper workout, and they have
Wow.
one of my GAs a few years ago. She came up with it, and I'm like you're crazy. This one's like rowing. That's cardio. What? So, anyways, it makes me feel good that they still care and yeah,
Yeah.
help keep her memory alive. So,
Well, I don't know what that feeling is like. I never, I don't understand it, but I can imagine how that feels to have the support of an entire university behind you, and it's
hmm
something where I think a lot of places like to say that their work is like family, or, like it's you go in and it's like, oh, we're family around here. And it's kind of something where in an instance like that, that's where it's truly shown. And so I
hmm
can only imagine to have the school have your back in that situation, and really kind of memorialize Harper as well, and make it something where it's a rack where this is the heavyweight is lifted, or the teddy bear toss,
hmm
those things that are so important to again memorialize and make sure that you are taken care of and your family's taken care of. I'm sure is something that is unmatched, and I mean obviously would make a massive difference in your career and your ability to be a great coach and all these things that are unraveled within your family life as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think anymore, I feel like sometimes we're self-consumed, and I admit sometimes I'm, you know, get wrapped up into what I'm doing, but I think having these, different things that like that, going out and doing something for somebody else, I think gets people to kind of think outside of their own little world. And that yes, what we're doing is important and we're trying to make you stronger and, um, be a better athlete. But at the same time, like there's going to be an end to this. How are you going to be, as a person when you leave these doors? How are you going to be as a husband or, you know, wife or, whatever, and a friend, how are you going to be when you leave here? So I don't know. That's always kind of been our message too. Like,
No,
let's be good. Let's be good humans. And
it's crucial. I mean, seriously,
yeah.
and that's something even we have a recruit coming in tomorrow, and that's something that I always make sure to mention. And I don't know how much our head coaches love this part of my speech, right? But I do say, you're going to pick a school, and I truly hope when you go to these schools, you analyze and really understand how much people will continue to be there for you after basketball is over. How much do
hmm
they? Because everybody, like I just mentioned, everybody will say that they're part of a family, or it's like at Texas Tech, it was Red Raider for life, which is true there. I mean, I can say that after being there for 2 years, it's 100% true. But, all these schools will kind of say these things. What do they do to show that they're still going to be there for you, even after basketball, or what the value that you supposedly bring to the table is, if you look at it from a transactional standpoint, when your side is done, does that school still support you? Is that school still there for you? Because, like you said, the ball's going to stop bouncing at some point, whatever analogy you'd like to use for the sport, but you have to be a human being. And most of the times you're going to be a leader as well, too, once you leave, because people who are successful within the athletic field are typically people who end up leading. And so, exactly like you said, you'll have your families, you'll have work, whatever facet you'll be a leader within. How are you going to have the tools to be successful? How are you going to be a good person? Because that's really
hmm
all that matters at the end of the day, is just being a good person.
True. Yes. Very
Well,
true. Yeah.
well, is Harper's Foundation still ongoing? If anybody's listening and would like to kind of donate, or for the stuffed animals that you mentioned to local firehouses, is there any way that they can get involved?
Yeah, I mean, we have tags that we usually put on the stuffed animals, and it's just harpershugs.com, and you can print the tags from there. And my mother-in-law has been a huge help in helping us keep that going. We have a Facebook page. We try to keep information going on there, and I've worked quite a bit with kids in cars safety. Not only, so obviously I'm a advocate now on child safety and in and around vehicles and as well as in childcare. So it's been very interesting being involved. I don't really set these things up, but like, hey, legislation is like pushing for this, and so I'll do what I can to help support, or,
Yeah.
have a conversation with um, NHTSA, the National Transportation Safety Administration, whatever, So, but yeah, I know I was a very roundabout way of, I sometimes talk in circles. I apologize. But yeah, our group is, yes, Harper's Hugs, and just having that advocacy to those other organizations, yeah, are pretty helpful. So
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So
Well, I'm sure some listeners would like to get involved or in some capacity because, I mean, that's obviously something very necessary and something that I really appreciate you also sharing your story on.
yeah,
I know obviously we talked about it pre-show as well, but just you never know who that could help and help support who's listening as well too.
yeah.
You have had an extensive career. You've had a lot of success throughout your career. It's hard to kind of nail down one thing, but what would you say is the biggest success that you have had throughout your time in strength and conditioning?
Yeah, no, I wrote down a couple things. I don't know.
Well, we can.
I
I want
thought
to
of
hear all of
things.
them. Then I want to hear all of them.
Um, I think just like in strength and conditioning, developing, even a small program and continuing to help to grow it. And I couldn't have done it without our administration, like our athletic director. He's been instrumental in helping to push for things to support me and our staff and our program. And, he does an awesome job helping us out. And I really couldn't have grown it to where we could have a grad assistantship, because for years when I first came here, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be all alone, training football all alone. And I prayed for interns. Like I even worked with KU for a little bit and was able to, get some interns, from that. And I've still remained great friends with some of them. And one of them is actually named Whitney as well.
Wow.
So I didn't plan that, and we're still great friends. And we actually do a nutrition, work with a nutrition company together as well. But
That's awesome.
just seeing it grow over the years, just I know we've got a long ways to go still. And also having our weightlifting team, that's another success. I feel like, I've always thought it'd be really cool to have that. And here we are. This is our fourth year of having the program. And now, I have a assistant that he just, runs with it and pushes me a lot. I think helps me grow as well. And all of my staff over the years, some are, got some in California, I've got some just kind of all over, and they continue to help push me and make me better. And like, you guys do the research, tell me what you learned. um, can kind of cheat that way, but yeah, and just like my family supporting me, that's helped me with my success. And if my husband gets irritated that I spend a lot of time here, then I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm like, I'm trying to, so just trying to make it float and do well. And yeah, just it's been fun also seeing my daughter really grow into to love the sport of weightlifting. And I'll say she has all my husband's genes, and then I get to coach her. She, I mean, she squatted 165 kilos a few weeks ago, and she's
Wow.
15. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is nuts.
No, she's definitely going to be successful. My goodness.
Yeah, she's she's a hoss. But
Well,
anyways,
I hope it won't be hard to get her on campus for a recruiting visit.
yeah, I know. We keep joking. So my grad assistant now, he's going to be the head powerlifting and weightlifting coach down at a school near Wichita, and Heston College. And he's like, I'm going to recruit her. I'm like, nope,
No.
nope, you can't recruit her. So we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll
well,
see.
I mean, that's incredible, and I obviously I don't have children, so I don't know to see how that passion kind of translates. But from people I've spoken with, especially like the basketball coaches, they always talk about they don't want to force basketball on their children, but as soon as they watch them pick up a basketball, they're like, yes, like they get
Uh-huh.
excited and hope that love grows
Yes.
for it as well. So I'm sure it's a very similar process. The first time she picked up a barbell must have been an exciting event for you.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, both my kids have. Now, my son, it helped him with, football and stuff, but knowing that, they're junior high and they're the ones being the demo for
Oh yeah,
the teacher, I'm like,
that's good.
my job here is done. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the closest I get is with my nephew. He's a successful swimmer, and it's great because I know the basics of strength training. And that's about how much I know how to train swimmers. So he's reached out. I've given him programs, but he's the demo as well. So I can certainly identify that. It's a
Yeah.
great feeling for sure.
It's fun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, thank you so much for sharing your journey and sharing, your entire career with us. Like I said, it's hard to even condense 20 years into 45 minutes.
Yeah.
It's not easy to do that, but I appreciate you sharing everything. If somebody does want to reach out to you, if somebody had any questions on anything during the podcast, is there a good way to reach you? Social media, email, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, my Instagram's just Whitney Rodden. I don't do anything fancy with my Instagram handle. Or yeah, you can email me, wtrodden@mnu.edu. That's pretty, yeah, that
Yeah.
works for me. So yeah,
Well,
I really appreciate you asking me. This has been fun. It's been good to get to know you as well. And
absolutely.
yeah, so
Well, thank you
thank
so
you
much
so
for coming
much.
on. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.